Thank everybody for coming again, showing your dedication. It's positive behaviour. I know that was a bit heavy from Simona. I was a bit heavy last week, but and someone said, can you not give us some good news? Well, the good news is there's lots of us doing this. There's lots of people posting on social media, making statements and comments.
I'll try the other one. I'll try my...
Okay. Sorry about that. Every week brings us new stuff, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Every week brings us new stuff. I mean, scientists, well-known scientists said 99.7% of people are not going to be affected by this virus. It's 0.3% who might end up with a cytokine storm. And we know if you study the science of vitamin D, that the majority of people who might be affected with comorbidities, we could help them dramatically if they were to take probably 10,000 or so IUs per day of vitamin D and stop a cytokine storm. The science is pretty solid on that. So why we're hearing nothing about people being advised to take vitamin D, why we're not being told to boost your immune system, and even the two words immune system are hardly heard in the mainstream media. Why that's going on, and yet we're told we must wear a mask. I mean, I haven't been able to parody the great poem by Shelley, The Mask of Anarchy, but gee whiz, we have got some nonsense going on just now. The science does tend to tell you, I think there's one or two hirelings who have written stuff saying it's okay that the masks will protect you. The majority of science I've seen shows we're going to get less CO2 going out, exhaling, and less oxygen coming in. Sorry if this was covered earlier. It is pretty clear that we're going to be getting our immune systems lowered over the long term through the use of masks. And how or why advisors in the Scottish Government could be telling the First Minister this needs to happen just now is bewildering. But if you start to look closely, I noticed that on Community Aware Scotland, please look at the Facebook page. Community Aware Scotland, Simona runs. It mentions someone, I'm not going to mention the name, someone born outside the UK. She wrote a book with Chelsea Clinton. And if we're looking for the New World Order plant, who's written stuff on global health policy, who is in with the Gateses and the Clintons, etc., we find the person there. Very talented writer, I've read some of her stuff, but we have people talking to the Scottish Government that the Scottish Government is listening to, who are what I would call plants, people who are being paid. Well, what I want to do is start off with just a statement that you might find in a book that we should all read more of. You cannot serve God and mammon. You cannot serve God and mammon. And being bullion. Not or, and. And if you sort of break down the phrase of serving God, it's really what Simona said earlier. It's trying to love each other. Kindness, humanity. And we really are in a major fight, not a struggle, a major fight for the very essence of our humanity now, all over the globe. We need brothers and sisters of all creeds and colours and all nationalities. And, you know, I wish I could visit the States to be there on Independence Day, independence from the UK, but they themselves have created a system where, as Simona said earlier, the illnesses, the sickness, the chronic illnesses, what we are seeing, to get back to mammon, is the power of capital, the power of capitalism of the elites, not the decent business people wanting to provide a service, to run a pub, a restaurant, to do work in a theatre, not those creative people, not the hard-working people doing database work that I used to do in London. And I've met one or two of the venture capitalists. Once we get to the elite, we are talking people with zero humanity, zero empathy. Did anyone recently see a certain Mr. Bill Gates talking about not the second wave, but pandemic 2. And what did he say? We're going to sit up and take attention. And then he smirked and shut his face. How does he know that we're going to sit up and take attention unless he is part of the plan? Now, we've been here and discussed this before. There are bioweapons labs throughout the world. They've been working on gain of function. Just look at Judy Mikovits, Dr. Judy Mikovits. We know that they've been messing with viruses, and they say it's for our protection. I'm going to try and find a quote. Now, I'll tell you what, I'll just go on to the different things that Gates is involved in. We've discussed this before, but let's go through it again. Many years ago, I went and spoke to a creative guy I know, a very talented guy, and he was blowing glass, and he was creating signs like Budweiser. Very artistic, hard-working guy, and he starts talking about chemtrails. Now, I was at the point where I was in denial, cognitive dissonance, ignorance, call it whatever you want, and I thought to myself, tin hat, he smokes too much of that weed stuff, and walked away thinking, he'll get sectioned. Now, let's understand that so many people are in those very shoes that I stood in. If you look back to the video where Bill Gates talks about depopulation, about 6.8 billion people on the planet, we can get it down, etc., etc. He moves on later, watch later in that very video. He talks about the 20-year policy of geoengineering. Now, I wasn't aware until I watched Dr. Vernon Coleman. Isn't he a hero? I mean, what a guy. I can't miss his stuff. Just love him to bits. Wonderful, wonderful human being. GP as well, and a writer. But last night I found out Gates himself, in the video, right, as previously mentioned, talks about geoengineering as a 20-year policy. So he's admitting not only does he know about it, that it's officially being done to slow down so-called global warming, etc. But what we found is, and Dr. Coleman mentions it in the video I watched last night, Mr. Gates is working with Harvard, and they're sending out 800 aeroplanes, more or less daily, and they're flat out to help save the planet, supposedly help save the planet. So if anyone's been in the shoes that I was in, where I was talking to my friend, and well, he was talking to me and saying geoengineering and they're spraying the planet, etc., and I thought he was crazy. We have Mr. Bill Gates now officially stating he himself is involved in doing this. And we know from people doing research and studying what they've been spraying that it isn't really just to stop the sun coming through. There are other motives as well. I'm not going to go into that much, right? But when you start looking at the tentacles and influence of this man, he gave money to Imperial College, Ferguson, Professor Ferguson. He is one of the biggest investors in Monsanto. And self
2010.
Says it all.
Aye. Yep.
Monsanto monster.
Monsanto is something that Simona's really pushed quite a bit, and I was doing that. I put a motion to the Northern Lanarkshire Council last year. We agreed to ban the use of Roundup, of glyphosate, and then there was an amendment put to it by a party I used to be in, and that was passed to say let's do an environmental impact assessment. But once you start looking at everything that Mr. Gates is involved in, Monsanto as well have been responsible for the suicides of thousands of farmers, where they stitch them up by saying, oh, we'll come into your country, we'll sell you, here's the seeds. And they would quite often give them free. This is what drug pushers do when they're selling bloody cocaine. Let's get smart here. It's what gangsters do. So what they did was, they were going to various countries, and they've done this in half the planet, where they end up giving quite often GMO seeds to people. And India is a special place for Mr. Gates, where he's maimed people, almost 500,000, through his polio vaccination, and hundreds of thousands of suicides there, because when they come to selling the seeds the next year, The poor farmers living in basic sort of subsistence can't afford the bloody seeds. So look at the inhumanity. Now we have got to be the people who are not serving mammon. I've never admired anyone with a big flash car looking down at poor people. I've crossed the road to help people who have fallen over. I'm not a perfect Christian. We're all sinners in a certain light, and it is striving to become better people. There is only one. I do not follow any ideology, any slogans. Stuff like the class will rise up, will seize the means of production, and there'll be a dictatorship of the proletariat. Get that crap back where it belongs, buried in the annals of history. We need problem solving now, and we need people who care, and we need humanity, and we need a light of values and the recognition that it's humanity at stake. Not only are people being poisoned, but the very threat to put microchips in people and the move towards transhumanism. That's where it's all going. They want to control us. Wearing of masks is nothing but a drill. Get in line, longest hand up. I can't do it like this, it'll be like this. Longest way up, shortest way down. Get yourself drilled, get in step. It's bloody lockstep, and they're programming us so that we will march like sheep to get injected with a fucking vaccination. Excuse me, I'm sorry to get angry on you again, people, but that's what it's all about. It is drilling us for control. Control, and what they are doing with so many people is creating. I mean, I heard the First Minister a couple of days ago there. I could not believe her grafting of pro-Indy language into what's happening now. We're showing solidarity to each other when we wear a mask. We're showing solidarity, between each other, and it's all the Indy language to be controlled. I can say to you, First Minister, I used to trust you.
Yeah.
I wrote a piece called The Dreams of Caledonia, and there's hardly a more passionate, patriotic Scot. And I've said here before, and I'll say it again, the ghost of Robert the Bruce should rise over this country and take these fucking hireling slaves and kick them out of our country. The whole idea that we should be shutting the border, we should be closing the border because there's 12 people infected in Carlisle and they shut down Dumfries and Galloway where I come from. What a piece of crap. Check the CDC writing that they put up saying, oh, if we give you a swab and we test you for the coronavirus, it might come out positive because we can't tell the bloody difference between any of the bloody coronaviruses. So therefore, their testing system for test and trace is itself flawed. I come from a systems background, and you wouldn't even tolerate 5 minutes of garbage from an idiot. You would say, get out, we'll do it ourselves. Proper testing, we don't even need it. 99.7% of the people are not affected. Asymptomatic people do not pass this on. Therefore, open the bloody country up, get people's cortisol levels down, let them relax and let their immune systems flourish. Let humanity flourish. Give humanity a chance. We are in a fight for our lives. Thanks for tolerating that.